Have you ever wondered what makes characters like Walter White or Michael Corleone just so captivating? I mean, they're definitely not heroes, but their downward spiral isn't random. It actually follows a very specific structured path. Today, we're going to break down that exact path and this explainer on the anti-hero's journey, the narrative blueprint for all our favorite morally great characters.
Okay, this quote right here, this is the key. It's a central metaphor for everything we're about to cover. It just perfectly captures the whole idea. This isn't a journey to save the world. It's about climbing down, securing your own prize, and locking the world out.
So, what exactly is the anti-hero's journey? Well, it's way more than just a story about a bad guy. It's a very deliberate, structural flip of Joseph Campbell's classic hero's journey. The steps might look kinda similar on the surface, but the motivation and the final destination, totally different worlds.
All right, here's our roadmap for the descent. We'll start with the main idea, the inverted monomyth itself. Then we'll walk through all three acts, the predatory departure, the ruthless initiation, and the isolated return. And finally, we'll look at that hollow victory waiting at the very end.
Okay, first things first, let's lock in the core concept. In this journey, the entire moral compass is flipped upside down. The story structure might echo a heroic tale, but the engine driving it is pure, unapologetic self-interest.
This chart right here gets to the absolute heart of it. A hero acts out of altruism, right? For the good of others. But the anti-hero? They're driven by what the source material calls honest greed, a completely open desire for personal gain, and noble power, which is this arrogant belief that they, and only they, are worthy of control. It's not about saving the community, it's about owning it.
So, how does a journey like this even begin? It all kicks off with Act 1, the predatory departure. And it doesn't start with a noble call to go save someone, but with a cold, calculated, selfish opportunity.
The first few steps on this path are like a dark reflection of the hero's journey. It all begins with a call to opportunity, not adventure. Then comes the refusal of the mediocre, not a refusal of the call itself. And the guidance they receive, it's from a dark mentor.
Everything starts with that first push. A hero gets a call to adventure, a chance to fix something broken in the world. The anti-hero, on the other hand, gets a call to opportunity, a chance to get rich, get powerful, or just get what they feel they deserve. Now, if the anti-hero hesitates, it's not because they're scared or full of self-doubt. Nope, it's a business decision. Is the potential reward worth the risk? For a character like Walter White, the biggest fear isn't getting caught. It's the thought of dying as an overlooked average high school chemistry teacher. That's the real terror.
And you know how heroes always have a wise guide, like an Obi-Wan Kenobi, to show them the right path? Well, the anti-hero gets the opposite. They find a dark mentor. This is the person who gives them all the corrupting wisdom, who teaches them how to break the rules, exploit the system, and use any means necessary to win.
And that pushes us right into Act 2, the ruthless initiation. This is the absolute heart of the story, the real descent. This is where the anti-hero doesn't just bend the rules, they shatter them completely, actively getting rid of any conscience they have left.
This act basically maps out the journey to the point of no return. It goes from crossing an illegal threshold to facing their greatest temptation, then the harrowing of the soul, and finally, grabbing that dubious reward. Every single step is a move deeper into the dark.
You see, crossing the threshold for an anti-hero isn't like stepping into some magical forest. It is a conscious, deliberate choice to break the law. It's that moment they decide the rules that apply to everyone else just don't apply to them anymore.
So, this brings us to a really critical question. In a story that's all about moral decay, what's that one moment, the one action, where there is absolutely no coming back? The answer is something called the harrowing of the soul. Think about it. A hero gets reborn through some great trial, but the anti-hero, they experience a death, the death of their old moral self. They have to embrace their worst impulses to survive, and they come out the other side reborn as something new, a creature driven purely by power. So what do they get for sacrificing their soul? The dubious reward. This is their version of the hero's ultimate boon, but it's not some magic elixir to heal the kingdom. No, it's a tool for personal power and control, which just reinforces the selfish goals that got them started in the first place. And that reward leads us straight into the final act, the isolated return. The anti-hero has it all. They've won. They got everything they wanted. But the end isn't a parade. It's a deep, crushing loneliness.
A hero's journey home might have them fighting a few monsters. But the anti-hero's road back? It's paved with consequences. They aren't being hunted by some mythical beast. They're being pursued by the police, by betrayed partners, and by the ghosts of their own actions. The threats they face are the ones they created themselves.
When you add it all up, it culminates in what you can only call a Pyrrhic victory. Yeah, the anti-hero wins, but the cost of that victory completely hollows out the achievement, leaving them the master of a very, very lonely world.
And this final comparison just says it all. A hero becomes a master of two worlds through their virtue, which allows them to fit back into society. The anti-hero gets to that same status, but they do it through force and fear, which completely severs their connection to the rest of humanity. In the end, their prize, their elixir, is tainted. They get some money and the noble power they were after, but it comes bundled with paranoia, constant conflict, and a profound sense of isolation. They didn't just sell their soul for the world, they traded their peace of mind for power.
So, this is the final balance sheet. Wealth and power make up most of the prize, sure, but they are fundamentally tied to isolation and internal conflict. And greed? That's the toxic glue holding it all together, turning their big win into a beautiful prison.
And that brings us full circle, right back to that central idea. The anti-hero uses the same ladder as the hero, but they climb down, not up. They get the prize, but they end up all alone in that vault, having locked the door from the inside. And that leaves us with one final question to think about. The anti-hero gets what they want. They win the game. They seize the power. But when you look at this entire journey of lost humanity and self-imposed isolation, you really have to ask, at what cost?